Hello, and welcome to Doc's Success Formula, solutions to personal, professional, and relationship puzzles. Life is a puzzle with many solutions. Together, let's discover your solution to success. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It is your girl, Dr. Melissa Noland-Chester, and I am live tonight with our co-host or our guest, Mr. Travis Brooks, and we are going to begin talking tonight about solutions to personal, professional, and relationship puzzles. But before we get into our conversation, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about our guest. And so I'm going to read his brief bio, and it reads, Travis Brooks began his career in real estate in 2005 with Keller Williams Realty. While he appreciated the opportunity and training Keller Williams had to offer, he knew he could better serve his community by owning his own brokerage firm. In 2013, he obtained his real estate broker's license and opened up Brooks Realty Group LLC. He has an amazing team of highly qualified agents with a passion to serve the community. Brooks Realty Group LLC specializes in residential, commercial, multifamily, and vacant land. Throughout his real estate career, he has worked extensively with low to moderate income families, first-time home buyers, Section 8 clients, etc. He has also worked closely with developers and investors to acquire commercial, multifamily, and land. He has had the privilege of working with several investors and corporations to acquire properties in low-income areas. And although he has been very successful in his career, his passion to serve the underserved is most important. He is currently the president of the Bay Area Association of Realtors, which is a local division of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, known as NAREB. They were founded in Tampa, Florida in 1947 out of a need for democracy in housing. NAREB's mission is to increase the awareness and importance of homeownership in the Black community. One major current national initiative is 2 million in 5. 2 million new Black homeowners in 5 years. Mr. Travis Brooks has 2 children, one daughter, Jasmine, who is a sophomore at Florida A&M University, and 10-year-old son, Chandler. And so, again, that is Mr. Brooks', and it was his brief bio. And so we're going to start off just asking Travis. Travis, is there anything that you would like to share that was not in your bio?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to grace your stage this evening, and I'm excited to be here. The bio summed up a lot of things about me. After hearing you read it, I sound like I'm a pretty big deal. But I never actually read it back to myself. But more importantly, I am my most proudest achievement is being a father, as you did state, my sophomore at Florida A&M and my 14-year-old, my 8th grader. I did attend the University of South Florida, where I had the honor and privilege of joining the greatest fraternity on earth, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, who just celebrated 108 years on November 17th. But yes, my bio is pretty straightforward. I'm honored to serve, the less fortunate, and I'm ready and excited to get this interview started.
Okay, well, happy anniversary. How long have you been in Omega yourself? You said the organization is 108 years. How many years have you been a dog?
How many years have I been an Omega man?
Okay, how many years have you been an Omega man? Touche. How many years have you been an Omega man? Only those in the Greek world understand that last little jab. But go ahead. How long have you been an Omega man?
22 years.
Wow, 22 years. Okay.
Since 1997.
1997. And you say you attended the University of South Florida. I'm assuming that's where you pledged?
Yes, ma'am. University of South Florida in Tampa Bay.
Anything else notable happened while at University of South Florida?
Well, I was actually, not as you mentioned, I was part of the inaugural football team out there in 1996.
Oh, wow.
It was about 50, 60 freshmen. that decided to start that program, and it was an excellent experience. Unfortunately, my freshman year going into my sophomore year, I did tear my knee up, which ended my football career a lot earlier than expected. But God doesn't make mistakes, and who knows, I probably wouldn't be in this position right now.
Okay, okay. So as college athlete and Omega man, you said your daughter attends Florida A&M University. You went to, you said, University of South Florida, HBCU versus PWI. Has she talked about the difference in that? Do you know anything about the differences in those types of attendance?
Well, I mean, although I went to a predominantly white institution, I traveled extensively to a lot of HBCUs, so I did get my fair share of the HBCU experience. So,
I'm sure you did, especially if you were an Omega man. I'm sure you traveled to many campuses.
Well, I try to make sure we touch as many people as possible.
Okay, I'll take it. All righty. So let's talk a little bit about success. And so I don't know if you've ever heard the show, but the one thing that I always preface each show with is talking about the fact that the title of the show is Solutions to Success. And it's always at S because our mantra is success is a puzzle and it has many solutions. And so each person has to figure out their solution to success. And so as it relates to success is going to be different for each individual. Success is an individualistic thing. What I may consider success, someone else may consider failure or consider I haven't accomplished much, etc. So the first thing we always say is that, success is different for each person. But one thing that we know is that when we talk to people who have considered themselves successful or who society sees as successful, that there are certain overarching or salient themes that come out. And so I'm excited to find out from conversation with you just what themes or common factors, foundations, platforms are going to come out of this conversation with you. And so let's just start off just asking you, what's your definition of success?
Personally, my definition is self-satisfaction. I'm pretty simple when it comes to success. You set a goal, you achieve that goal, and you're satisfied with the accomplishment. It's not about what it looks to nobody else. It's about what it feels to you. And that's the most important. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't look at somebody else where they are in life, because you may not be willing to go through what they did to get there. You have to be satisfied with who you are at the end of that goal. And that's simple to me. If you are satisfied with their accomplishments, you're a success.
Something that I always say, it's so funny you said self-satisfaction. The way I stated it was just like what you said, not to get caught up in comparing and contrasting yourself to others. And self-satisfaction, that's such a powerful set of words, self-satisfaction. Do you think that most people reach self-satisfaction?
Well, I think most people, especially in this day and age of social media, I think we have too many people to compare yourselves to, so you don't really get to really enjoy or appreciate your accomplishments, because you're always comparing yourself to someone else's accomplishments. So I think if we get back to being who you are, knowing who you are, and enjoying that self-satisfaction, I think most people will feel a little more successful. And that's something I think we need to really, really get back to.
I agree. So one thing you said knowledge of self. I think that that is definitely one of those overarching themes that has to definitely go on their list of solutions to success. I don't think people take time to get to really delve into who they are, like you said, their likes, their dislikes. What is it that they want to do? What is it personally that you want to do? What is being successful to you? Right. I constantly think back to when I was in school, and I reflect on. I mean, I grew up very poor. I grew up where a lot of people didn't graduate high school. My peers didn't graduate high school, and I remember how excited people were about high school graduation. And I remember my mom asking me like, "Why aren't you excited?" And I was like, "Cause this is nothing. It's a high school diploma." I remember that because again, I innately there was always I was not comparing myself or oh yeah, you graduated from high school, like you made it out of the hood, you got a high school diploma. That was never ever enough for me, and I think that started my journey of self knowledge, just understanding that I was not I don't think I was built like others. And so interesting that you say that knowledge of self. Were you going to add something to that?
Well, but because you saw success to become on a higher level other than the high school diploma, I would like to want individuals that just got the high school diploma. That doesn't mean you're not successful, because for someone that was success.
Correct. I agree.
Absolute.
Totally
That was
agree.
absolute success. Just because, again, I come from probably a similar background as you. So sometimes you may be the first out of your family to graduate high school. So
right.
that is complete success to you. And again, I applaud you for recognizing that. Hey, there's more out there than the high school diploma. But that word, and we're going to stick with that word success. That word success means so many different things for different people. And if you are satisfied with that high school diploma, you are absolutely a success.
I agree. I totally agree. If you didn't get the high school diploma, but you are earning a wage for you and your family, you are successful. If that is how you define success, again, that's going back to that self-satisfaction.
Right.
You have to first determine how you define success. And like you said, I think that too many times, oftentimes, people are looking at everything and everybody else to say what success is.
Right.
And it's why most people aren't satisfied with where they are, or who they are, or what they are, because they're constantly, consistently comparing themselves. And so, that if you're taking notes, guys, if you're listening, start thinking about, like, if you truly, honestly, truly looked at just you, what would you consider successful? And just what would that look like for you? I think that's the first thing that most people have to do. So thank you for having that success conversation for me.
No, I've just my last point is we go to a lot of seminars. When I speak, I say we, but individuals go to seminars about success, and they always give you keys to success. You're going to have 5 keys or 10 keys, and they tell you all the things you need to do to be successful. But what if you do all of those things and you're still not satisfied? Are you? Would you be considered a success?
I'm glad you asked that question. So it makes me think about, and I'm going to get a little nerdy here for a minute, but it makes me think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And at the top of that pyramid, right? So it talks about how you have to satisfy these other needs, these basic needs, and you work your way up that pyramid. And that the pinnacle of that pyramid is self-actualization. And when it comes to self-actualization, there is so much debate as to whether a person actually ever self-actualizes. Do you ever reach? Because self-actualization is reaching your full potential. And so there are 2 viewpoints to that. One side says, yes, when you get to a place and you're successful and you feel you've accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, then you've reached self-actualization. But then there's a total opposite viewpoint that says nobody ever reaches self-actualization because we never, ever will reach our fullest potential.
Right. I was about to say that's kind of tough. How would you know what your potential is until it's all said and done? So that would be tough.
So you agree with that self-actualization, probably nobody really tops out. Like, we don't ever top out. We get to a point of success, but do we ever actually self-actualize, get to our fullest potential?
Right, because there's no such thing as a perfect person. So how could you top out?
So I don't know if I would go with perfectionist potential. When I think of fullest potential, let's take we could take me, for example.
Okay.
I think you and I, we're friends, and we've talked a little bit about, past histories, etc. And for those of you who may or may not have heard, my background is not cute. It's not roses, not a bed of roses, but I've accomplished some things. I come from an area where as Travis mentioned, to get a high school diploma is a big accomplishment. But I've gone on to obtain my PhD. In obtaining my PhD, I've taught on the collegiate level. I also am a broker at a real estate company, not an owning broker, but a managing broker. Run my own nonprofit, but I still feel like I really haven't scratched my surface.
Right, and I agree with you on that earlier point, because when you don't know what your ceiling is, nobody knows what the actual ceiling is. Would you agree?
Agree. I totally agree.
So you don't know what your potential is. Yeah, so you don't know what your potential is. So every day is an opportunity to stretch that, to see how far your potential goes. So I mean, I haven't wasn't been privy to that piece of information you just give, but I would love to read that information.
I'll make sure I share it with you. When I taught health for 12 years at FAMU, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is something that we always went over, because we talked about the fact that, when you think about people trying to be successful, they talk about the fact that, okay, if I'm worried about food and shelter, how do you expect me? And it makes me think about all my educators, and that I run the nonprofit Black Educators Rock, and it makes me think about my teachers who are working with little ones. And the premise behind Maslow's hierarchy of needs is that if I'm having to worry about food and shelter and love, how can I ever reach my potential? Because my most basic needs aren't being met. And so when it comes to that pyramid, there's no way for me to get to the top of that pyramid. And so it's really, really, it is some powerful stuff. It's very basic stuff, but it is powerful. And it's something that I think anybody who teaches, who deals with other people, should kind of look at and kind of understand that. So I'll be sure to share that with you, some reading on that. But yeah, it always makes me think about that. So moving on, when it comes to success professionally, you talked about the fact that, you are the owning broker of Brooks Realty Group. Talk a little bit about how did that come to be? Because obviously you were working at a company. You can tell me, were you doing well? How was that going? And what made you say, you know what, I want to kind of step out and do my own thing?
Well, I actually, when I received my real estate license, I came in with an exit strategy. My goal was to own my own company from the day I got my license in 2005. As I stated,
how old were you then, Travis, when you came in? How old were you?
Man, you got to make me go back and count, huh? I think I was 28.
28 when you got a real estate. Okay.
I was 27, going on 28. I was 27.
Okay.
A few months from 28. Once I got into the football, didn't know what exactly, what turn my life was going to take. So I went into the banking industry. I loved it. I was working at J.P. Morgan Chase. They decided to outsource my company to India, and that was the best layoff I've ever had in my life. My last day working there was July 31st, 2005, and I had my real estate license by September 2005. So that was the catapult that I needed. Sometimes we're afraid to step out, and I like to use that saying, faith and fear can't coexist. So if you're going to make whatever decision you're going to make in life, you can't make it with fear. So once I got my license, of course, you have to work up under a broker. So it really didn't matter what broker I worked up under, because I knew it was temporary.
Right.
I walked in with an exit strategy. But Keller Williams provided some great training programs, and I was flourishing. I was doing well, and at that point in 2013, I was like, it's time. It's time. I've gotten all the training that I can from Keller Williams. I felt like I had hit my ceiling at Keller Williams, and I appreciate everything they did for me. But I knew at that point it was time for me to step out and do what I came here to do.
Okay, so like you said, that was interesting. So I wonder how many people go in. You said you came in with an exit strategy. So that's interesting to me, as it just relates to success in general, because the one thing that I know is that that's so different from our parents and our parents' parents. We know that when they started working a job, it was to be on that job for 30, 40 years until we retired. And that's a trend that people have noticed is that, that's not the way anymore. People don't stay at one organization with one company, for their careers. That's funny, I guess, because that plays a part into how people define success.
And now that you mentioned, I did a class about a week and a half ago on marketing to millennials, and they were looking at the difference between Gen X, the baby boomers, and the millennials. I think the Gen X, which is our generation, I can't think of the numbers, but we were averaging about maybe 18.6 years, on a job. No, I don't think it was that much. It was about maybe 10 point some years on the job. The baby boomers were close to maybe 20 years. And then the millennials, they only average about 16 months on the job.
Yeah. And so, again, just the differences in how people define success. I mean, because looking at their grandparents will probably look at them and shake their head and like, oh my God, you can't hold a job down, as if that, that impacts or influences how successful they are. So that's an interesting thing, I think. So you said you came in with an exit strategy, and so you were with Keller. You said 2005 to 2013 when you stepped out and opened up Brooks Realty Group. What were some challenges becoming an entrepreneur, going from being an employee to stepping out and becoming an entrepreneur?
Well, the first challenge was having no knowledge of how to do it. I came into an industry where there weren't a whole lot of brokers that I could go to, especially ones that looked like me for mentorship. So it was a real tight trial and error period for me. The challenge was just from the basics, how to set up an LLC, how to make sure you have your, all your paperwork together. So what I decided to do was make sure I hired a good attorney. I hired a good lawyer. A good attorney and a good accountant, because I only know what I know. And it was getting frustrating trying to go to some biz by myself and, not wanting to make any mistakes. So that was the most frustrating part, was just getting the basics down. Real estate, I already had that down. I knew how to do real estate, but now I need to learn how to do it from a business side. So that was the most frustrating, and not having someone that I can go to. Again, I'm in my family, I'm first generation college student, so I didn't have anybody that I can go to bounce these ideas off
of. Entrepreneurship. What? How do you feel about entrepreneurship? What do you think about entrepreneurship? Do you think that, because that's where, and I'm saying that when it comes to success, and because you said you always came in with an exit strategy, and so it tells me that your definition of success was that, again, you wanted to own your own company. You
right.
Felt
that was my Right. That was my definition. I knew I didn't want to work for anyone. That was my definition of success. And being able to control your destiny, having a little more control of your life. I feel like when you're working for someone and they decide what salary they're going to pay you, they determine what kind of car you're going to drive. They determine what kind of house you're going to buy, what kind of school your kid's going to go to. And I just didn't want anyone to have that much control over my life. And if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail on my own. And if I'm going to win, I'm going to win on my own.
It's so funny you say that. It's so funny you say that, because that's one of the things that I constantly, when I talk to you about entrepreneurship and like you said, working for somebody, like you said, being able to control your own destiny and your own life, and just, understanding that as it relates to entrepreneurship, and working for someone, they're determining your value.
Right.
That was one of the reasons that I left the collegiate level. I did not like the fact that, others were determining my earning potential. And that is one of the phenomenal things about entrepreneurship, not just entrepreneurship, but real estate in general, because although you're owning your own company, even when you're working with somebody as a realtor, when you're under a broker, you still, for the most part, control your earning potential. That is 100%. One, I think, the greatest things about Real estate, yeah, you can do an entrepreneurship where you have your own entity, but real estate in itself is still entrepreneurship because you are an independent contractor.
Absolutely.
You know, different companies have different splits, but you find that company that you feel is providing the most for you with that wage split, and then you're determining what your earning potential is. And I think it's one of the areas that in our communities, in minority communities, we don't promote enough is real estate, those real estate industries, agents, appraisers, because I tell people constantly when I go talk to, I went to talk to Job Corps a couple weeks ago, and I told the students there, I was like, I have 3 degrees, yet my earnings potential was capped by someone else. Yet in real estate, I have my earning potential is only capped by what I want to do. And I explained to them, if I just want to sell one house a month, one a year, that's up to me. But if I want to make 6 figures in real estate, that's completely up to me. And not a lot of careers give you that earning potential with just a high school diploma or a GED like real estate does. And so I always tell people, if you're looking for somewhere to be, somewhere to land, and it's not based on degrees or licenses or certifications. I mean, all you need with that real estate license and your earning potential is unlimited.
Right, but 2 parts to that. When I was working at the bank, and I realized that no matter how many $1 million CDs I was bringing to this company, mutual funds, my paycheck looked the same every 2 weeks. So I realized that the harder I work, I'm not seeing the fruits of my labor. Like you said, in real estate, there's limitless potential. You are absolutely 100% self-employed, even if you're working under a broker.
Correct.
I would encourage real estate agents to LLC themselves.
Correct.
You are a business. When you get your real estate license, your first and last name is exactly that, a business. If you need to LLC, Ann Smith LLC, whatever you need to, and work your life and work yourself as a business, and you oh man, it's absolutely amazing what this industry has been able to open up for me. Not only from a financial standpoint, but from a self-satisfaction standpoint. But we'll probably talk about that a little later.
Yes, I totally agree. I gotta agree with you. Real estate has been one of the best moves that I've made, and it's something that I've charted my own way in real estate. It's been very unconventional, my road in real estate, but it has been mine nonetheless. And again, talking about those solutions to success, it was success for me the way I'm rolling in real estate. And I thoroughly agree with you as it relates to real estate. So I would have to say that both of us consider ourselves successful as it relates professionally when it comes to that aspect of our business. Couple other things about real estate. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with you. I said absolutely. We both would consider ourselves.
Yes. And even though our paths are completely different in real estate, we both are successful in real estate. Again, just showing how it's individualistic. It's completely individualistic. As it relates to real estate, where do you see yourself going professionally as it relates to real estate?
Well, my goal in 2005 was to create pretty much a one-stop shop under one roof, a title company, mortgage company, real estate company, investment firm. I want to try to have goals so big that it's almost impossible for me to achieve. And I can't remember where I heard that from, so I stole it from somebody. But they say, you set goals that are almost impossible to achieve. And that's what I do with myself and my business. And growing over these last 6 years, I've seen my business get greater every year, and I don't even think I've scratched the surface to what I'm going to do out here. But if I just have to give you a flat out plan, I want to be able to create a one-stop shop, all under one roof, where when you walk in my building, you don't have to leave until you go put the keys in your new house.
Okay, awesome. So as it relates to real estate, one thing that as you were talking, it made me think about, like you said, are we getting this information out enough as it relates to real estate? It made me think about our millennials, and I know that we talked about in your bio the 2,000,005. We know that one of the um, what would you call, I guess, the sub focuses of that 2,000,005 is the millennial buyer, the millennial purchaser. And we know that as it relates to our millennials, their earning potential, their earning rates actually are higher than ours, but they're not purchasing homes, and it makes me wonder, because there's something I read one time that says when you learn, teach; when you get, give. And I think for me that is a part of success. My success definition is that everything that I learn, that I give it back, that I pour back into. And I just wonder if we as an industry, if we're doing a good job of that, sharing that information out with our communities, with our millennials.
Well, if you go by our home ownership rate, it definitely indicates that we're not doing a good job of passing that message on. I'm a believer that those that came before us saw the importance of what land is. And I love this quote by Malcolm. It says, "Land is the basis of all independence, freedom, and justice. For it is on land that a people build a nation." And there was a reason why all wars have always been fought over land. It's the only thing you can recreate. This earth will not get any. This earth will not get any bigger. We cannot create more dirt. That's why it's the most valuable thing on here. And that's why everybody fights for it. People that control the land, they control the people on the land.
Right.
So because our home ownership rate is so low, and as you can correlate, we have almost no control or no say-so of what's going on in this country. And I guess it's frustrating for me now, like you say, when you have the knowledge, you want to, you feel excited to give it away. And when you feel excited to give something away, nobody wants to receive it. That's the frustrating part for me. But I understand.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Because are you about to say you understand? So what? Why do you think that is?
The messages throughout the years have been just diluted. Again, like as I alluded to before, those before us, our grandparents worked hard, made pennies, but they always wanted to own a home. They always wanted to own a home. They wanted to have something for their family to come back to. Wealth in this country has been attributed to the equity in your home, and most folks have created wealth through home ownership.
Correct.
And they saw that importance. But for some reason, and I'm a part of that generation too. I would say Gen X, and now more so the millennial generation. For some reason, we lost that value in home ownership.
Well, I know why it was. I talk about it all the time. I tell people all the time, we go right back to what you said, technology, social media, the things that we started putting value in, we allowed other people to tell us what things were valuable, comparing and contrasting. There's a thing that floats around Facebook that says, why would you own a Land Rover, but you have a landlord? Right? And so
I love it.
You own a Land Rover, but you have a landlord. And so, what we're doing is a lot of us are paying other people's mortgages because we allow people to tell us what was success, what was valuable. And those things were in, I got to go back to my movie Baby Boy, when Ben Rain said, guns and butter, baby. Said guns and butter. We're into those things that depreciate instead of appreciate. But, I won't even get into that's all by design. I won't even go into my whole diatribe about that. But, I think that's where it's at, Travis. I think it's that, that's all by design. It's not just happenstance. It didn't just happen. Because when it comes to home ownership. Yeah, go ahead.
No, and I agree with you as far as, what do we do as far as the buying power? Because our buying power runs this country. It's just we decide to put it in the wrong places. But it's also got to go on the other side of that coin. We look at the laws that was created that fought hard to prohibit us from owning land, from the redlining. When you looked at even the Great Depression, when they came out with the New Deal and they created the FHA program, 98% of all homes that was purchased, and I don't want to say the exact years, but it was between the mid-30s to the late 40s, they created an FHA program, and 98% of those homes were purchased by white folks.
Right.
So
Right.
it was also laws in the Jim Crow laws. They were designed to stop us from purchasing homes because they know the power of land. And I like to
Correct.
tell folks, it's a reason why it sounded good that you was going to give every slave 40 acres. It sounded good, but can you
Until
imagine?
you really thought about what it meant.
Till you understood that if I gave
Right.
every slave 40 acres, we would own this country.
Yeah. Yeah. You couldn't.
We would
Yeah.
own it.
Yeah. Yeah. And to wrap up, and we're going to move on, guys. I know, we're both realtors, we're both brokers, and we can talk about this forever. But we both mentioned that organization that we both are a part of, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. That organization was actually created, going back to Travis's point, because Black people could not be realtors, so we couldn't wear the little R. They were preventing us from being able to show homes and help in that process of buying and selling. And so some leaders got together and created the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. You have the National Association of Realtors, which is NAR, which is Realtors. And then we were NAREB, National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and we were Realtists. And so that organization still exists today, and it is about, again, just promoting home ownership in Black folks, with Black folks. And so that's me and Travis. Both of us, we met actually at at our national conference, which was something that we, kindred spirits, we both really, really believe in, trying to uplift our Black folks and share this knowledge and share this information and make sure people understand home ownership and just ownership. And so we're going to move on. And so move on from that professional aspect. And we're going to talk a little bit about, yeah, we got to move on. We spent some time on that one, but both are passionate about it. So let's talk a little bit about you personally, you as a person.
Okay.
Do you feel that you have, as you said, self-satisfaction as it relates to looking at Travis? Because that's what success was to you. He defined success, guys, as self-satisfaction, right? Am I satisfied? And so business-wise, he's checking it off, but he's always creating more goals, is what he says. And so now we're looking at personally, when you think about Travis Brooks as the man, do you feel that you have reached or you are reaching, you're on the path of self-satisfaction with Travis Brooks, the man?
I think I am now on the path to being able to look at that young man in the mirror and being satisfied with the person that you see. And as I like to call it, youthful inexperience. Of course, in my youth, I made a lot of mistakes, and at some point, I didn't like who was looking back at me. But where I am now, I think every day I wake up and I say, I want to be a better Travis today than I was yesterday.
And so going to that place and space, and I'll constantly say this, I think that people are very egocentric, very me-centric. I don't think most people do any self-reflection, self-introspection, because you said at one time you didn't like what you saw.
Right.
Was there something that just kind of was an aha moment? Was it age and maturity? Was it that you think it was, life altering moments? What do you think kind of made that awakening for you?
Well, I know that oftentimes most people don't change on their own. There's normally an event or a circumstance that happens in their life that creates that change. And if I was doing percentage-wise, I would heavily lean on a negative experience of some sort that makes you change. And for me, it was going through a divorce. Going through a divorce was one of the toughest things I had to go through. And I tell anybody that's close to me, I tell them all the time that was the best and worst thing that ever happened to me. It was the worst thing because, of course, I went through a divorce, but it was the best thing because it allowed me to have that self-reflection time. It allowed me that quiet time to look at Travis and say, okay, how did you get here? What did you do to get here? Now, once I realized that, okay, what are you going to do to get out of here? So that was the life-altering event that happened in my life that changed the trajectory altogether.
It's interesting you mentioned divorce because we know that statistically, like that number also has just skyrocketed as it relates to our generation and generations to come. Like when it comes to divorce, and I would dare say that most people in divorce, they don't look at themselves. They point the finger, and say what the spouse wasn't doing. If the spouse had done this, there's very few people that I think, because I've talked to a lot of people who've been divorced, and it's a lot of finger pointing. And one thing that I always say, I actually said it is, but I'm gonna tell you something that I always say, Travis, that I've been saying since I taught college. When you point a finger, three pointing back at you, hitting you back in the chest. Right?
Right.
So when you point your finger, look at those three that's hitting you back in the chest. And so it's interesting that you say it was divorce. And I still think that for most people, because of that egocentric nature, that me-centric nature of most people, I don't think that most people still do a lot of self-introspection and self-reflection.
Absolutely.
I just think that, so kudos to you for allowing that to be a springboard where you actually looked at you and not your ex-wife or, circumstance or situations and if this and if that. And so as it relates to, like you said, starting to change, Travis, what are some changes that that you could share, that you don't mind sharing, that people can grow from? I know what you've said to me, something that you and I kind of talk about when we speak occasionally, and I'm just saying if that's going to be the first thing that you say out there. It's something that you always say to me. So
oh Lord, I don't know. I again, my
build or destroy. Talk about build or destroy.
Trying to build or destroy. I mean, again, and that's a mindset. And I think we do have our conversation. I say it all the time. You have to make choices, and in this life, you're gonna need to choose to build or destroy, and that's every day. And it's all about perspective. How you're gonna look at a certain thing. You can look at that's that glass half full or half empty mentality. After my situation, everything around my mentality was, let me find this silver lining. Where's the positive, over this dark cloud? That allowed me to go through my day a little more joyful, because I know no matter how bad it looked, it was for a purpose. This thing that I'm going through was for a purpose. And I understood that man born of a woman is but of a few days and full of trouble. When I read that in the book of Job, I was like, hey, this part for the course. Let's go. Let's go. So I made a decision to constantly do.
So it makes me think about, and today I call today Winning Wednesday. And so it made me think about some quotes that I had put up today, and you just talked about that, like choices and perspective. It makes me think about optimism, pessimism, and realism, right? So there's a quote, and I don't know if I'm going to say it right. I probably need to find it. But there's a quote when it comes to the optimistic person, the pessimistic person, and the realistic person. And I'm bringing this up for a reason, because for me, I think it's one that I kind of struggle with as it relates to, I know that I'm a realist. I know that, but what I'm trying to do, and I just told somebody, I think when I was speaking in Dallas this weekend, I said this to them. I said, you have optimistic people, you have realistic people, and you have pessimistic people. And I think the challenge is, if you are a realistic person, don't let your realism be tinged with pessimism. And so it says the pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The realist adjusts the sails. And so
say that again. The realist adjusts what way?
The sails. It says the pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. It's going to change. And it says the realist adjusts the sails.
Okay.
S-A-I-L-S, sails, right? So when I read that quote, I was like, oh my God, that's me, because I've had conversations with people and, different people, and we will be talking about, like, I was like, why aren't you telling that person the truth? Like, why are you like, you're lying to them? Like, and I think that is kind of, wrong. But to be realistic, I want to just make sure I'm realistic, but not being pessimistic with my realism. And so how you kind of helped me with that is that just like you say, okay, Doc, build or destroy, build or destroy. It's either going to be build or destroy, and just kind of trying to, although it may be true, the bad outlook that I'm looking at, just maybe keeping that inside, and let's give the example. Me and you, the other day, I told you about an event that we had planned, and I was like, it's going to be a horrible. Nobody's going to be there. You remember? And what was it you told me? What did you tell me? Do you remember? I don't remember. What did you tell me?
Well, that perspective alone is the reason why I always tell you that you're either going to build or destroy, because death and life lies in the power of the tongue. You were speaking death to an event that hadn't took place yet.
Right. And I felt that I was speaking realism. It wasn't death. Remember, we had a debate. I was like, no, I'm not being negative. It's the truth. Right? And then we debated back and forth, and I think we came to a happy medium. That what was stated was, I should have said, I don't think anybody's going to be here, but, and then I should have followed it up with some positive statements instead of just leaving it in the negative. And so, to my point of being realistic but not being pessimistic with the realism. So that is something that I think a lot of people don't realize that they do, is that they're pessimistic, even though they consider themselves realistic. And I think that's a part of. Go ahead.
Right, or you can say either you're going to be a real pessimist or a real optimist.
Right. So
even if you got to adjust the sail to the wind, you can still want it to change, because the wind may be blowing you in the wrong direction. Even if you just adjust your sail, then that means you're okay with going in the wrong direction.
Right.
I think as you adjust your sail, you still want to get back on the direction you need to go. Especially,
and you want to put that in the atmosphere. The one thing I've learned is, put that in the atmosphere. The Lord has been putting certain people in my life. I met a young man out there in Dallas, Mike Dunn, very positive young man, millennial young guy, and he speaks so positively. He reminds me of this other teacher that I know, this educator who's very, very positive like that. Oh gosh, I can't even think of his name right now, but they call him Teacher Bay. He's a former football player. He plays. And I can't believe his name is escaping me right now. But those are two of the most positive young men that I've ever met in my life, and they're always speaking just positive. And and I'm like, and then there's you, and so I'm like, okay, the Lord is telling me, Doc, you got to kind of change your words. Like, it's okay to be realistic, be real. Jr. Jr. is his name. JR, that's his name, right? And he's very positive. He and his young man Mike Dunn, and there's you, and so just kind of changing my words a little bit and watching, being cognizant of what I put out in the atmosphere is something I'm learning. So personally, and so when it comes to what you said about those choices and perspective, it just reminds me of my post that I put up today. It says it's impossible, said pride. It's risky, said experience. It's pointless, said reason. Give it a try, whispered the heart. And then it follows up with saying self-discipline begins with the mastery of your thoughts. If you don't control what you think, you can't control what you do. And so I think, go ahead.
And there's been just so many acronyms about the power of the mind. As a man thinketh, so shall it be. The mind is such a powerful tool if we use it for the good. Reality is, you're not always going to have a good day. Life is not always going to be rosy. That's the reality of life, and we know that. Nobody's going to have a perfect day every day. But when you're in a position, especially like yourself, you're in a position to influence. You're in a position of some would say power. You have to speak truth to power, because they're watching how you move. Whether you want them or not. What was that Charles Barkley used to say back in the day? I'm not a role model. Whether you wanted to be one or not, if you're in a certain stature, a certain status, you're being watched, and people will remember you. So how you want to be remembered? Folks will gravitate.
Again, I think I got to go back to Trav. I don't think most people care about how they're being remembered, because people are so egocentric and so me-centric. They're only living in how I want to feel right now, about my own satisfaction, about me. I don't think for whatever reason, we as a people, generally speaking, most people aren't thinking about how I want to be remembered, and what am I putting out in the atmosphere. It's just how does it make me feel right now? It's the me. And I think that's one of the things that we, as a community, we as Black folks, we got to work on. We got to work on getting back to that village, getting back to that communal thinking, that communal, putting those energies and um, atmospheres back out. Like I said, this young man, J.R. Rivera, I read his posts daily, and I'm amazed at how intelligent and articulate and positive he is, and he's so young. And I think the amazement comes because I know he's one bright light out of so many. Because you know about my group, 150,000. There are a lot of Black educators, young Black educators. They don't sound like Jr. They're constantly berating students and berating being in education, and so again, why I even started my nonprofit was to kind of combat that mindset. But I think that's because people come from such an egocentric place and space.
Right. But if we want to see change, we have to be changed, and it starts with you. It starts with me. And again, it's not about. There's no way we're going to completely change the world. But if you get one, to me, if I get one, and that young man who you're speaking about, JR, may not even know the impact that he had on your life. It's some folks that you're going to impact their life, and you will never know it because they're just.
Oh, he knows because I let him know. Him and you and the guy. I believe in giving people their flowers while they're alive. I think that's something else that we don't do enough of. We don't give people their flowers while they're here. We don't compliment. We don't share that. So I'm constantly telling people, complimenting them when they give me things. And when you just were saying about we can't save the world, but it starts with self, it makes me think about that story about the starfish. And they said there's a young man and he's walking along the beach, and all these starfish have washed up on the beach. And if they don't get back in the water, of course they die. And so this guy, he's just walking on the beach, and as he's every few steps, he picks up a starfish and he throws it back in the water. And somebody comes up to him and say, "Hey, why are you doing that? You can't save all these starfish." And he picks up the starfish. He said, "Yeah, but I can save this one." And he throws it back in the water. And I think that that's something that we have to realize, like you said, most people are afraid of what they can accomplish and what they can do because they're like, oh, it won't make an impact. But making a small impact is better than making no impact at all.
So, yes, ma'am. And understand that energy is contagious.
Yes.
You decide. You make the decision what type of energy you want to give off.
Yes, totally agree. And so that's something that I am working on, is making sure that I'm more positive with my vibes, making sure that I'm more so not even with my vibes. So I'm positive with everybody other than myself. It's really weird. There's this strange dynamic in me where I'm positive and I tell you can do it, but it's me, myself, that I'm kind of down on. So I am working on that. And so in our last few minutes, you got away from me. We were supposed to talk about personal. We talked about personal and professional.
It was my fault.
Relationship.
It's my fault.
Yeah, it's your fault. Relationship success. You mentioned that you were divorced. So are you remarried?
No, I'm not.
So you're single. No, so relationship success. What does relationship success look like for you?
Well, being that I'm divorced, I don't know if I can define what a successful relationship looks like, and I haven't.
Of course you can, because you never lose. Either you win or you learn, right? That was a learning. Right. It's all about learning. Yes.
Absolutely. And for me, being at that time not a good communicator when it came to relationship, that was and it's an easy concept, and everybody talk about it. You got to communicate. But I really understood what that meant afterwards. I am now a much better communicator. Whether it will, make you feel good or make you feel not so good, I would rather communicate that with you and give you the opportunity to make the decision instead of making the decision for you. But I think a successful relationship is also.
So is a better communicator tied into being honest? So is that what I'm hearing? Like the better communicator.
100%.
That part of it.
Yes.
100%.
Yes. Honesty. Because by not being honest, you're taking. It's unfair to the other party because you're making a decision for them, and you shouldn't do that. give them the opportunity to tell you what they will and won't do. You know, but also it has to be a battle on who can make each other the happiest every day.
I heard that. I like it. It's a battle on who can make the other happiest each day.
That's the fight that we're gonna have is who gonna make the person the happiest today. That's the fight we're gonna have.
Now, see, now, don't y'all be calling me after the show asking me for Travis' phone number, how to get in touch with Travis. From that, Travis, now that little quote there, you just might have got yourself in some trouble. A battle on who can make the other the happiest each day. I'm going to steal it. I'm letting you know. I'm going to give you your credit because I believe in academic honesty. You know, I am an academician, and I do believe in intellectual property. And so when I put it out there, it's going to say hash. It's going to have the quote, the dash, and it's going to say Travis Brooks. And I might, I might edit a little bit, but I'm going to let you know it's going to be a battle on who can make the other the happiest. That's the fight we have.
That's the fight we have, and that's the truth.
I like it.
That's the truth.
All right. So the three things that's helping you to win relationship: great communication, being honest, and understanding that when it comes to a winning relationship, the only fight that should be going on consistently, because you're always going to have issues and problems, is the only fight that should be consistent. It's the one on who can make the other person the happiest. I like it. All right. Anything that you want to say, last words you want to share with the folks, or anything that you feel like we didn't get into?
Well, I think we touched on a lot, but my last words would be to congratulate you on this platform, and I know it will take on legs of its own because you have an opportunity to impact so many different lives and different areas of success, personal, professional, and relationship-wise, which is much needed in our community. And I kudos to you, and I am here anytime you need me.
Well, I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for sharing, for sharing personally, professionally, and relationship-wise. It's always a privilege and an honor when a Black man speaks, because most times I used to tell when I taught relationships in health class and MU that, the guys, they tell you, we don't listen. Like they're telling us, but for whatever reason, we're just not listening. We hear, but we don't listen to them. So thank you for being open and being willing to share tonight. And it's thoroughly been a pleasure, and I look forward to having you on, maybe on another show at a later date. I think I'm going to do a single Black man, and you're going to be in on that round table because we're going to go to TV show in the new year. So just be ready, okay?
Sign me up.
All right. And so, guys, we're going to end on that note again. Just in closing, just remember, solutions to success. You're trying to figure out your solution to success, and just some of the things that Mr. Brooks said tonight that were keys to personal, professional, and relationship puzzles was self-satisfaction, right? Make sure that you understand what it is for you. He mentioned, when it comes to being personally successful, make sure you're looking at self-introspection and self-reflection, being sure that you respect and admire that man or woman that's in the mirror. And when it comes to professional success, make sure that it's built on communication and honesty, and that the only consistent fight that you guys are having is on who's going to make the other the happiest. And so on that note, guys, we're going to wish you guys good night, and thank you for tuning in. Have a great night.
Thank you for tuning in to Empower Media, the station dedicated to your success. Join us next week as Doc speaks with authors, educators, entrepreneurs, leaders, and speakers about their journeys to success.